Some people come here to find peace. I came looking for a vending machine. It wasn't a spiritual journey. I wasn't soul searching. I was just thirsty. I'd taken a detour on my way to work. Not a metaphorical detour, an actual detour. The main road was closed for repairs, and the back roads led me through the mountains, where even the navigation app gave up. Out here, convenience was a rumour. The few supermarkets didn't open until 10, and I'd passed the last one 20 minutes ago. No convenience stores, no vending machines. Not one flashing LED sign promising hot canned coffee or chilled sugar milk. I hadn't planned on stopping, but the thirst crept up slow, then all at once. My water bottle was empty, and the air had that early morning dryness that cracks your throat before the day properly starts. So when I spotted a small wooden sign pointing off the road towards a temple, I decided to take the turn. The walk had been longer than expected. The kind of uphill you don't realize is uphill until your knees start whispering about mutiny. Morning mist still clung to the forest, and the sun had only just begun combing light through the canopy. If there were gods watching, they were doing it from behind a curtain of cloud and cedar. I wasn't here for them. I just wanted a vending machine. Out here, in the middle of nowhere, tucked into the folds of an old mountain pass, there was a temple complex that apparently had one. The kind you see in travel shows or overly sincere YouTube vlogs, where the host bows too deeply and says things like sacred energy while standing next to a 900-year-old bell. My expectations were simpler. I was banking on a can of Boss coffee, or at the very least a lukewarm Georgia. The approach was marked by a towering wooden gate, weathered, massive, and entirely unbothered by me. Past it, moss-covered stone lanterns lined the path like solemn, patient sentries. The forest was quiet, but not dead. I could hear water somewhere, maybe a stream, maybe a hidden ravine, and birds, spaced out and half awake, calling to each other with the kind of restraint that belongs to things that have lived here longer than buildings. I pressed on, half hoping for a sign pointing towards caffeine, but knowing I'd have to earn it. The path forked, sloped, rejoined, and climbed. I didn't bother keeping track. Every turn looked older than the last. Wooden halls appeared and disappeared behind veils of mist. Roofs curved upwards like frozen waves. Incense hung in the air, not overpowering, just present enough to suggest somewhere someone had already awoken and was tending to the rituals of the day. That gave me a flicker of hope. If the monks were up, maybe they'd brewed a fresh pot of coffee. The stone steps began soon after. These weren't the polite little ones designed for tourists. These were temple steps, uneven, worn smooth by generations of sandals and rain. They weren't built for comfort. They were built to separate those who meant to arrive from those who merely wandered close. I was somewhere in between, dragging one foot after another like a man on trial. At one landing, I paused. Not to take in the view, I just needed a second to not move. The treetops rippled in a breeze I couldn't feel, and for a moment, I could hear nothing but my own breath. Something about that silence made the space feel bigger. Not grand, just vast. Like I'd stepped out of time for a second. Then my legs reminded me they weren't impressed by philosophy, and I kept climbing. I passed the cedar so massive I felt briefly insulted by it. The trunk was broad enough to shame city lampposts. Its roots had cracked through the stone path, lifting the earth with slow, quiet insistence. Moss clung to it in patches. A crow stirred high above, unseen but present. The air beneath the tree was cool and heavy with the scent of old bark and deeper things. I stepped around the root and kept going. The temple was beginning to show itself in pieces. A bell tower off to the left, a main hall, barely visible through the trees. Wooden beams as thick as my torso. Everything built to last and succeeding. Even the silence felt old here. Not empty, just resting. I passed what I think was a meditation hall. Slatted doors drawn shut, a rake-swept gravel path out front. A small stone basin sat nearby, water rippling quietly beneath a bamboo spout. A wooden ladle rested on the edge. If I'd been in a different mood, I might have lingered, but the craving was louder than the scenery. I didn't want enlightenment. I wanted caffeine. Further along, the path opened into another sight altogether. A giant reclining Buddha carved directly from the mountainside, grander than anything I had ever encountered. Draped peacefully, its enormous, stone-carved hand cradled its head as if lost in eternal contemplation. It stretched gracefully, ivy wrapping gently around its body as if nature itself revered this ancient deity. It was impossibly detailed, from the folds of its robes to the tranquil half-smile on its lips. Nearby, a waterfall murmured softly, hidden in the trees yet insistent to its presence. It whispered its ancient song, timeless and continuous, cascading gently over stones, polished smooth by countless seasons. Birds flitted through the mist that rose from the pool below, small flashes of life in the perpetual calm. I barely registered it. Instead, I felt a rising impatience at the universe's insistence on offering beauty instead of practicality. The sound of flowing water only reminded me of thirst. The serenity around me seemed almost mocking, a peaceful symphony playing for an unappreciative audience. I quickened my pace, irritation growing. More paths unfolded, more statues, more carvings, even more intricate and ancient than the last. But my patience had long since eroded. My focus narrowed to a single thought: coffee. I passed another part of the complex, something I couldn't name. It was just there. Carved stone figures arranged in a semicircle, some mid-kneel, others gazing upwards, all worn into anonymity. They had the presence of mourners, or perhaps worshippers, though the object of their reverence was long since gone. One figure still had enough of a face to reveal a soft expression. It might have once been joy, or grief. I didn't linger to figure it out. Then, finally, the machine. Tucked under the eaves of a smaller structure, humming faintly. Blue light against dark wood. It looked ridiculous and perfect. Green tea, electrolyte drink, green tea, hot lemon water, green tea, no coffee. I fed the machine my coins anyway. The can clunked down with a hollow satisfaction. Cold, clean, completely insufficient. I cracked it open and took a sip. It was fine. Crisp, even. Astringent. But it wasn't coffee. It wasn't what I'd schlepped all this way for. And that made it worse. I stood there, can in hand, by all this staggering beauty, and I felt cheated. Not by the monks or the machine, just by the day, by the timing, by my own stupid optimism. The worst part wasn't even the drink. It was knowing the only way out was the way I'd come in. I sighed, turned towards the descent, each polished step promising a painful negotiation with gravity. The realization of the long journey down settled like a stone in my stomach, my knees already aching in protest. The steps stretched below, unending and ruthless, waiting patiently, indifferent to my exhausted groan. I imagined every worn stone mocking me quietly, laughing in silent stone whispers as I considered the painful task ahead. My thighs began to quiver at the mere anticipation of the descent, muscles tightening in preparation for the punishment to come. Each step was a sentence, every landing a brief reprieve that only prolonged the inevitable journey downward. Somewhere, faintly, a bell sounded. Not loud, not urgent, just a soft chime echoing through the canopy. A new day beginning in earnest. Somewhere, someone was starting their morning properly, maybe even brewing a pot of something dark and strong. But not here. Not for me. I didn't get coffee, but I was definitely awake now. And then came the descent. There's a special kind of groan your body makes when it realizes everything you climbed, you now have to unclimb. The stairs stretched downward like an accusation. I stood at the top for a moment, can of tea in hand, facing what felt like penance. The stone steps, some narrow, some splayed wide like the mouths of yawning gods, waited for me in quiet judgment. I took the first few slowly, heels protesting, knees bracing for impact. The descent was worse than the climb. On the way up, your breath gives out. On the way down, it's your joints. My thighs began trembling halfway through, not with effort, but anticipation of effort. Each deliberate footfall echoed through my calves. The sun was up properly now, filtering through the trees in soft columns, but I didn't care. All I could think about was asphalt and chairs, and a cup of something scalding and bitter. And still, the temple didn't care. It just watched and breathed and carried on being beautiful for people who might appreciate it properly. Maybe one of them would bring their own thermos. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Your support helps me create more content just like this. And if you're in the mood for more, check out these videos coming up right here.